No, I'm good, actually. So, again, welcome, everybody. I know this is a busy time of year, as we were all discussing, with a lot of viruses and stuff coming through. And I'm hoping that the initial data collection and stuff has not been too onerous for the practices. Certainly, if you have any questions, Melanie is the first one to go to. I'm the second. So she's really the one who spearheads and knows more about the data collection, in addition to Sam, who, again, helps us with the QI process. And I am pleased to welcome Dr. Long today, who is going to talk to us about the different resources that are out there that are both for practitioner and some for families that are going to be available. So welcome, Dr. Long.
Thank you very much. So I'm talking, can anyone hear me okay? That's a stupid question. If you can't hear me, you probably, just let me know if you can't hear me. I'm going to talk today about an app that was developed by the Ohio AAP called Fast Vax Facts. And you have to say that 10 times fast.
Say it quickly, yeah.
It's a mobile app. It's free. Created this summer. We did some press releases on it in the fall. There were a couple of TV appearances, but it's been out there, and it's both for providers and patients, and it is constantly updated. So the chapter felt that this was necessary or could be helpful to parents because a lot of the misinformation that they get out there. Go to the next slide, whoever's driving for me, please. Obviously, parents are getting a lot of information on the Internet, and there's websites that aren't legitimate, but there are websites that maybe not be illegitimate but give misleading information. That they use, the slide says powerful imagery, but I think, some of these stories are very, very compelling, okay? And so it is difficult to combat some of these stories. Just to give you something that happened in my office this past week, we had a girl who was in for a 5-year checkup and supposed to get immunizations. She looked a little pale, mom was a little worried, but she just had a cold symptom. And we talked about other things. And bottom line is, for some reason, they walked out of my office without getting their immunizations. And what happened to this girl is a week and a half later, before she could reschedule to come in and get her immunization, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And you can imagine if she got her shots that someone would have said her shots caused leukemia. It's an unfortunate incident, but that's where a lot of these stories come from. So we're combating a lot of these compelling stories. So we're trying to, with the app that's accessible, make the Internet, a safer place and guide people to more trusted areas. Go to the next slide. So if a parent downloads this or you have it in your office for a parent to look at, there is a screen that if you log in as a parent that you will look at, and you're seeing it now. There's 6 panes. It's okay to ask, and those are questions divided in adolescent and general and child. The adolescent question is mainly around the HPV vaccinations. Now, one thing I will note, at least in my version, Melanie, is that when under the okay to ask it, there's no update on the 2-dose schedule yet. One of the questions is for the HPV. Yeah, it says, why does my son or daughter need 3 HPV immunizations? So that is one update that still hasn't occurred. Just so you know, that's not the 2-dose versus the 3-dose isn't in there yet. But there's a lot of good sample questions. The Vax Facts, basically those go through each vaccine, and those are a VIS, and you can use them as a vaccine information sheet in your office. It says my county or your location, where you're at, to give you information about HPV rates and any outbreaks that are occurring. The pane that's trusted media will guide the parent to various websites that we recommend, the CDC, the Ohio Department of Health, the Vaccine Safety Net, the AMA, the Autism Science Foundation. There's a list of trusted websites that will give the parents good and reliable vaccine information. The Vax Education tab basically just gives you a little bit more. Those are like downloadable PDFs. And then from the doc is a series of videos and a PSA on just dispelling some myths and why we give vaccinations, and a little bit some of the advertisements that have been put. You may have seen them before your movie started in the theaters or on TV, and then there's several videos on just vaccine myths and why vaccines are safe. And then down at the bottom you see immunization timeline. That's when the parent log in so they can look and see, the general CDC recommended schedule of the different vaccines. Obviously every office may do things a little bit differently, but the basic, 18-month appointment, whatever, you'll see the list of vaccines. The 2-month appointment, as you see there, the vaccines that kids can get. So it goes all the way up through 18. You put in your child's birth date and name, and then you get it for each child, so you can track all those shots, and you essentially have a mobile immunization record. Any questions about the parent login? Yeah. Now you can log in as a provider too. Now I have to be. It's been a little while since I downloaded my app, but Melanie, do you put in your NPI number to be identified as a provider?
No, you don't have to put any information specific.
Okay. So you can log in. If you log in as a provider, and if you are a provider, you can go back and forth. You see the panes here. Mobi, it just gives you some information on the Mobi and TIES program, how you can schedule those programs to come to your office and get involved with those. The Parental Vax Concerns gives you just a resource how to address various vaccine concerns, and there's a specific PDF on HPV on that. Then the pane for earning MOC. There's some things that the chapter has sponsored on CME webinars on HPV opportunities, and a self-assessment for adolescent module that will get you Part 2 credits. The Vax Facts on the Go. That lists a lot of questions that you may go to the Red Book for. Is it too early for this vaccine, or what do I do if it's just like 3 or 4 days? What's the leeway? Those types of questions. There's a list of them answered, posed and answered under that pane, and they're searchable through. It'll take you to the CDC website as well, so you can get that information right at your fingertips through there. So it's a good tool for you to use. You can also use it in your office if you have tablets available, and there's a way to use a SureLock app that the parents won't be able to get on various websites or do the YouTube Junior or whatever, and they can use the app from your office within the tablet application. Go to the next slide. And so if you want to give the parents the tablet while they're waiting in the waiting room, or in the exam room while they're waiting in the exam room, might be some of us have tablet kleptomania phobia. We're convinced the tablets are going to walk if they're out in the waiting room. So if you want to use them in the exam rooms and spread them out, you can do that too. And it's nice sometimes to have them when you're talking with a patient, just because they say, "Oh, I saw this question here," and they have the question right in front of you. You can answer it and discuss any kind of questions they have from the information in the app. Go on to the next slide. One of the cool features of this is the share feature. if there's information the parents see and they want to take, they can email it to themselves, or if you have the app up, you can email it. Some of if you see it says ohioaap@gmail.com, it will be the, go to the next slide. I'll show you. You click the share button and go to the next slide, and you can type in the parent's email address, and you can see it says from the ohioaap@gmail.com. That's where most of them, if you're in the parent feature or parent login, that's where the email will come from. So you can send that in to parents. And there you see there are links too. And as you see, it's better to show you. It'd be nice to have a live app, but I don't know if you see on this slide, those three little lines that are up the upper right now, those on the app themselves are on the upper left, and when you click on them, they slide over to the right, and then you can switch from provider to patient. The tabs down below there are program funding, terms of use, and then a nice tab to provide feedback, some short questions, and if there's anything on the app you want to see, this is the place to put it. I just gave some feedback. There was a question I couldn't find on the app, so I just sent would you think about adding this question to the commonly asked questions section. So anything you want to add or suggest for this app, please let us know, and we can add it. I'm going to speak for Melanie when I say we can add it. It'd be Melanie doing that. So if you get the app and download it, it's very, very easy to use. I encourage you just to click around in it and explore and get used to where things are at. And if you have any questions, give Melanie a call or shoot her an email.
I do know, Nancy, that you all, I talked to Delilah last week that you all were trying to get your tablets working. Do you know if you were able to, I sent some instructions yesterday. Do you know if you're able to get those going, or are you still having some issues with those tablets?
I really don't know. I was out of town for a funeral for the last 2 days, so I know she got your email, but she is gone for today, so we haven't really hooked up on that yet. But plan to do that either this afternoon or tomorrow.
Okay. I'm sorry you had to take that time off, but, yeah, you all just email me or call me if you continue to have issues, and I can get you connected with some of the software information is a little higher than my level, and so I'll have to get our IT person involved.
Okay.
Mindy, have you all been able to get your tablets working? Are you on mute?
I'm sorry. Yes, I was. Yes, we have been able to log into the tablets and have gotten information from them.
Great. I'd like to hear any feedback you might have. Have you heard anything from patients or even employees on using the app?
As far as the employee side, I mean, it's nice to have like the digital copy of the VIS sheets for the parents. Because half the time when we try and give them the papers, they're just like, I really don't want any extra papers to take with me.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we do have a digital copy if you want to look over it, and we can even email it to you through the tablets. So the patients like that option as well. So I mean, so far it's been positive. No real negative feedback on them. So we're pleased.
Just a heads up on those vaccine information sheets. I don't know if you all are aware, but they get updated quite often by the CDC. And one of my responsibilities with this mobile app is to make sure that they are updated when the CDC updates the vaccine information sheet. So, technically, according to federal law, you're supposed to give the parent the most recent update. And so that is just my assurance that what's on the app is the most recent update.
Great.
And then we just wanted to mention a few additional notes about what I had sent to you in the box. if you hadn't been able to look through all of them. We did provide some postcards that have a magnet on them that you can actually give to parents that just kind of outlines what the app is about and where to find it. We provided some HPV vaccine reminder postcards and magnets, our HPV vaccine informational pamphlet, and a really great adolescent immunization flip chart. Those, as we move along with this collaborative and talk about different strategies for increasing your rates might come in handy. And we have plenty here in the office, and so if you ever would like more, just shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can for sure send more out to you. And then you all have both, I believe, been in QIDA, which is the data system, and there are some resources that we have listed on there for you to, there's a link on the QIDA project page to, it's a location on the Ohio AAP website, and we've provided some additional resources for you, including a printable immunization schedule, a really great handout about addressing parent questions about the HPV vaccine, the AAP HPV Champion Toolkit, which is really useful. I use that here at the chapter all the time. An additional HPV toolkit from NIPA, some really helpful articles gathered by our leadership team. Thank you, Dr. Fitch and Dr. Dritz, and then some other educational opportunities. So again, that link is on your QIDA project page, and I will also email that link out to you to make sure that you have it. Any questions about the resources or anything we've gone over so far? Okay, and I will then turn it over to Dr. Samantha Angels. She's the quality improvement consultant on this project, and she is going to go over some of our collaborative data. And Sam, I am going to attempt to hand over the mouse to you, if it's going to let me.
Right.
Give me just a minute here. Doing this weird thing. Hang on a second.
And Melanie, what is the turnaround time for getting things updated, as Bill mentioned, since it's a 2-vaccine series just recently as opposed to a 3?
Probably just a few days. I'll write something up and then send it to our, actually I believe we have some information approved already from our leadership team on the 2-dose schedule, so I'll just locate that information and I'll make sure it gets on the app by the end of the week. Sam, I believe you should have control of the mouse. There you go.
Okay, so let's see. Okay. Did it advance slides for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So I kind of always like to come back to what we presented at our kickoff learning session and just kind of bring us back to where we are. And I apologize if this came over lovely blue. But we've done our pre-work period, and if you're kind of looking at how things are laid out within QIDA, that was Module 1, and also in Module 1 was some of our baseline data session. And we had those surround our learning session that we held back a couple months ago, and now we're in the action period, transformation period, where we're working on test of change, we're collecting our cycles of data, and then having this feedback, at least on our live action period phone calls, and certainly always through Melanie. If you have any questions, you can communicate those to her, and she'll field them to the appropriate person. Working through modules 2 through 7 within our action period so we can wrap things up in a sustainable fashion. And we're doing a series of webinars. This happens to be one of our live action period calls. And then other components that kind of go towards your MOC credit are completing your data cycles, your PDSA worksheets, and then the office flow diagrams that were within, I believe, Module 2, walking through how to do test of change and then how to think through your office flow and how we can supplement what you currently have to get on track with your HPV practices and the new recommendation. And then to bring everything back from that global picture to, our specific roadmap for this project, thinking about our specific aims here in the SMART aims section on the left-hand side, about trying to increase our initiation rates and doing so by 10%. We discussed a bit of the second aim with our providers strongly agree or that they will recommend the HPV series to the 11 and 12-year-olds, both male and females, and we'll see how that data shakes out by the end of the collaborative as a pre-post. And then also a pre-post is that our providers feel confident in addressing those parental concerns. So the data that I have here and coming up on the next couple of slides, we'll be looking at the initiation rates and how we're doing around those, broken down by age range, and then a couple other pieces of information that can help get us towards that initiation and completion of our HPV vaccines. One of the tools that you're using to do your data collection is this chart review tool, and we worked out some of the kinks with our talk learning collaborative, but I just wanted to open it up and see, as you've been going through and doing your data, if you've had any challenges or comments, questions, concerns about it that we can help you with. It's nothing that we can really change at this point, but at least we know as you're looking at the data that you're coming across any issues, and we can make note of that and revamp things as we wrap the collaborative. Okay. If you do have any questions or if you're having issues with the way that the data is being collected, please just let us know, and we'll take that into account. So these next two slides look at our initiation rates, and our target for this collaborative are the 11 and 12-year-olds. And we have cycles 1 and 2, which are our baseline data. Right around 50% of those are being initiated, and then, again, smaller sample size. And one of the things to note as we're looking at collaborative data and even as you're trying to pull your own data is you won't see what's happening until you've closed out a cycle. So if you're in the middle of entering data for a cycle or haven't fully completed it, until you press that close cycle, those pieces of data will not be pulled into or visible to you on a practice level, and they won't contribute to the collaborative data. Which may be why we have smaller numbers here for our younger ages. And also, as you look towards the next chart, some of the 15 charts that you're entering per cycle are coming out here in the older initiation rates. So again, a little lower here. And I don't know if you have any insights from working in the environment as to the initiation rates that you're seeing in the 11 and 12-year-olds, and maybe that little dip. And then for those that haven't yet initiated, for the older children or adolescents, comments about how we can get those initiation rates up. Okay. And then the next two slides are looking at our completion rates. So for those 11 to 15-year-olds, and this is looking at the 2-dose series, how many of them have completed their series for HPV, and we're hovering, if we average everything out, probably around 7 or 8% between our baseline and cycles 3 and 4. And then our series completion rate for our older adolescents, we were a little lower during our baseline period, and given a little smaller sample size for cycle 3 and not any charts entered yet for cycle 4, 75% of those older kids that had been reviewed in the random chart polls have completed their series. And then one other piece of information just for your information and to help use and inform your next steps is just the timing and looking at that new series recommendation. If any of our adolescents were receiving their second dose at an improper time, and we can see here no one had been giving that dose improperly, so I think that's good. We don't really have an opportunity or area for improvement to target there. However, we do have a little bit when we're looking at the second dose for this group of individuals, and it's a relatively larger sample size. And seeing just around 25% of them are receiving that dose improperly. So with this, it's having less than 5 months between the doses. So working for that 2-dose series, having that proper timing between the first and second dose. Before I move on to the QIDA component, are there any questions or comments about collaborative data or your specific data?
This is Jill. I actually have a question. So regarding that fact that there's the less than 5-week interval, or 5 months, is it close, or do we have the actual kind of, is it like within that week, or is it really off?
So that's something I would have to pull and tease apart, and I can certainly look into to see if it's within 1 or 2 days or if it's a little larger gap. And that's something that we can present on the next action period call if that would be helpful to everyone.
My guess is a lot of them are probably that, like it's close to the date. You got them in the office. It's a captive audience. Let's just get it done.
Yes.
I know that. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, please.
I know that in our office we had a lot of the younger ones who had started the series, so they were already scheduled, for the second dose, which was 2 months when it was still the 3-dose series. So for those ones, since they were already coming in, they weren't rescheduled just to get the 2 doses. They were continued on to the 3-dose series.
Okay. So that makes sense.
So I know a lot of our data would have been compiled that way. Okay.
And I think that's good caveat, and as you're looking at your data, and I can put these on our run charts as well, annotating them, that some of the ones, since they're already a captive audience, giving them and then keeping them on that 3-dose series schedule.
Yeah. I think it was all the ones after mid-October were then set onto the 10 or the 2-dose schedule instead of the 3-dose.
Okay. And I'm not familiar with voices yet. Which practice are you from and who's speaking?
Mindy from Mercy Health Lorraine Peete.
Thank you. That's perfect. And I think that's what we'll probably be seeing, too, with a lot of national data as well. But that's good to note here within our specific collaborative. Any other comments on the data? Okay, so this next slide I have here is just using QIDA, and I wanted to take time, if you guys wanted to walk through QIDA, the analyzing your own data, if that's something of interest, how to go about doing that, or if you had any questions, so that you can populate your charts in real time and see how you're progressing through things, or if everything's good, then I can go to the next slide and we don't have to worry about covering that. Thoughts from the practices? Mute maybe.
This is Mindy again. As far as the data entry process on QIDA, I have not had any issues.
Okay.
It's been pretty smooth.
Good. And Contemporary Pediatrics, are you good with the data entry process or have any questions about analyzing your own practice's data?
I actually haven't put in any of the data. Delilah has done that, but she has not mentioned that she's had any issues with it.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's good to hear that there aren't any issues or challenges. If you do come across anything or have a problem when you're going to analyze the data that you've entered in your completed cycles, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And then the only other thing I wanted to note here was with our workspace that it's just a timeline of everything that's going on, and it's what Melanie references in her reminder email. So she'll maybe point you to a specific section and say there's webinars here to watch, and just kind of point you to where that is. The content that is not done during a month with a live action period like January is done. So February, for example, and April, you can do those self-directed. You could do them all now. Those don't have to be done in a certain time frame. The data, of course, will be from each respective month, but at least the content, if you have a couple extra minutes here and there, you can watch future items, and those are readily available. You don't need to wait to that specific month. So just something of note there. So I had another placeholder in case I didn't pause to stop, but any other questions about your Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles or the office flow documents that you're pulling together, the content you may have viewed on webinars from December or maybe peeked at for February and April, or any requirements regarding MOC4. We're happy to answer those questions for you. And I think one thing, if you're looking for a PDSA cycle idea, and I believe it's mentioned within the workspace, using what we just discussed today about the Fast Facts app. I'm not as skilled at saying that. I have to pause for each person. That's a good PDSA cycle to trial one of those components or functionality with families or using the tablets during one clinic afternoon with some well-child encounters and how you can use that as a tool to talk about vaccines with the families. That's just one area and test for change that you may trial as you're moving forward and get one of those PDSA cycles for your MOC4 requirement knocked off and checked off the list so you're good to go. So wrapping things up, reminders, always kind of check back into the QIDA workspace. Most of the information has been put there and hasn't changed, but it's just there for your readily accessible. Your data for the month of January and those adolescent visits that you're seeing is due February 5th. And again, 15 charts of visits attended by adolescents. And I think when we said in the top section, try and aim for half younger than 15, half older than 15, and you can pull from any series of visits, likely your well visits and immunization visits. And then February's Action Period 3 module is self-paced, so you can go ahead and dive in that if you're looking for some more content to view. But with that, that's all the content, Melanie, that I had around data and QIDA.